This is what's happening in Brazil. Two parts. One, a kind of systemic assault under Bolsonaro. And you'll see how this all kind of fits together. And then how this does, it's inseparable from the political imprisonment of Lula da Silva. And anybody with pretensions of any type of progressive leadership must speak on the system's assault in Brazil and the imprisonment of Lula. But we're going to set this with a very good report by Michael Fox for the Real News Network on how this, and it starts with the unions are organizing against the attempts to gut the pension system, which we covered recently, and there was a great report from Brian Mayer from Telesur on this. And Michael Fox is going to, the report begins with that, but he's putting it into a broader context as well. Let's check this out.
Bolsonaro's plan so far appears to be this. Take any issues that might be areas of leftist resistance or social organizing and bring them clearly under his control. Here's one example. In January, Bolsonaro removed the authority to demarcate indigenous lands from the National Indian Foundation and handed it over to the Ministry of Agriculture, which is led by Teresa Cristina, the woman who used to head the Big Ag Caucus in Congress. The responsibilities of the Labor Ministry have been divided up among 4 different government departments in a symbol of the butchering of labor law and workers' rights. The registration of unions falls under the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Justice, led by Minister Sergio Moro. This is a concern for labor leaders, as Moro is the former judge who jailed ex-President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva on controversial evidence. In January, Moro announced that he would choose a federal police officer to oversee union registration. Over Twitter, Workers' Party President Gleisi Hoffmann announced that the criminalization of the union movement had begun. Hoffmann and others fear Moro and his people may move to strip the legal registration of unions as a way to weaken labor organizing in the country.
You know, Brazil really matters in this new Condor years in Latin America, because what you have, and there's really good reporting on this as always. Everybody, as I always say, you need to be reading Brazil Wire every day to understand Brazil, but also the systems of what's happening across Latin America right now, because you're going back to a totally subservient sort of position relative to U.S. military presence and interests in Brazil. The Brazilians so far have kind of publicly stated that they won't go along with any U.S. invasion of Venezuela because it would, in fact, be catastrophic for the Brazilian military. The Venezuelan military is stronger than the Brazilian one. But them playing this role at the border and them sort of acquiescing to all kind of U.S. military demands and expectations puts them in a very vulnerable position to do that. That runs parallel track with this ruthless war on any form of progress and protection. That's indigenous people, pensions, unions, and everything. And of course, that's what Wall Street wants. That's what the investor class wants. That's how you generate new markets. That's what they mean. You gut a public commons, you turn it into a scarce resource, and you generate new artificial profit bubbles which can get gobbled up by speculators, which in fact might lead to economic numbers that look good for Brazil while all of this economic terrorism and political terrorism is taking place by the Bolsonaro regime. And that's very important to connect all of those threads here. And, you know, again, Brazil, as the largest country in Latin America, is essential to understand what is the plan for the whole place. You just enjoyed that Michael Brooks Show video, and you can get a lot more by subscribing to us here at the Michael Brooks Show YouTube channel. It's literally right there.